Happy Tuesday, everybody. Limitless live, coming to you, beautiful Sarasota, Florida. We're talking a little bit today. We're diving into the concept of being clear. A lot of times at Limitless Minds, we talk about clarity over certainty. All right, being clear is more important than being certain. In terms of being clear, we're talking about being clear with your actions, objectives, those types of functions, and it's really interesting. I mean, I'm laughing because I'm sitting here looking at myself in the screen, and it's like blurry behind me, right? So it's funny that we're talking about clarity, but what are we talking about? Like, what is clarity? What is clarity, and then how specifically, like as a leader, do you get to clarity and help those be more clear? Rebecca, what's up? Good morning. Glad to see you here. Appreciate you joining in today. I'm drinking espresso. This is how I'm getting clear. The number one way of getting clear is waking up first, and having a great, beautiful, big old espresso is one of those ways. That being said, what we're talking about again is this leadership piece, and how do you get like super clear with your team? How do you get super clear with yourself, and all the other objectives? So just going to go down kind of a list of the things that we've come up with from really leadership research and our own personal experience with great leaders. I had the opportunity working with the Chicago Cubs that, yes, Jake, get that espresso clarity, right? I had the opportunity working with the Chicago Cubs to work with one of the greatest managers and coaches that I've ever worked with, a guy named Joe Madden. And for those of you who don't know Joe Madden, Joe kind of walks to the beat of his own drum, a little bit different. But he was always really clear about what was truly important for the guys on the team. And the biggest thing for Joe was the fundamentals. Like, nail the fundamentals and do the fundamentals over and over and over again really, really well. Hold our team accountable to the fundamentals. And then it was really clear about what they were expected to do. There wasn't that gray area of like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? We just got clear on it. But Joe was unique because he was an incredible communicator as well. And he was also one of those guys that like people just wanted him around. He has this charisma to him. And a lot of the players just wanted to be around him and hang out with him because he was so interesting and unique and wonderful. But that's, so that's kind of some of the experiences that we're pulling from some of those great coaches like Joe Madden. So the number one way to be clear is to be really clear about what the results are. We talk all the time about process. The reason that we want to focus on our process is because that's going to get us our results. But if we don't know where we're going, if we don't know what the result is, who the heck cares about what the process is, right? Think about it from this perspective. I'm in New York. And I'm in Sarasota, but I'm using that as an example. All right, so I'll just say it. I'm in Sarasota, and I want to drive to Los Angeles. Great, right? But as I go, what happens with my iPhone, my GPS, my Waze, right? It tells me, hey, in 45, miles, you're going to take a left on I-10 or whatever it is, right? And it tells me kind of step-by-step process. But if I don't ever put in my objective of Los Angeles on the backside, if I don't ever put that, it doesn't know what the process is to get there. It doesn't know to take a left here and take a right and stop at the Big Texan in San Antonio or Amarillo. It's in Amarillo. Big Texan's in Amarillo. Sorry. It doesn't know to stop. Right. What am I going to do? I'm just driving a circle. We used to do this game at IMG when I worked at IMG Academy, and we were talking about goal setting and really the importance of having a clear goal. And we would bring two people up. We'd bring two kids up onto the stage, and we'd say, okay, we're in this like little theater, and we bring, it's like 100 kids in the room, and we bring two kids up. Hey, we need two volunteers to have a race. Awesome. And they come up and they stand on stage, and they're standing on stage, and we would go, on your mark, get set, go. And sure enough, they would just kind of like look around like, wait, where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Wait, so they would run maybe back to the back wall, and then they would run back up to the stage. Some would just run around the whole audience, the theater. They wouldn't know where to go, right? And then they would get back and we'd be like, who won? And everybody would be, Bobby won. And just like, no, nobody won because we didn't give them an objective. They had no clue what the objective was. Maybe this guy won because he stayed on stage longer, right? Amarillo by Morning. I don't know that song. Jake, we're going to have you on to sing it out loud. You have to sing it out loud, right? But the whole point was, hey, we didn't know where we were going, so how the heck could we get there, right? So the number one rule about getting clear is be clear with your objective. Where are we trying to get to? As sales leaders, as sales teams, hey, we want to get to this mark. This is our mark, and we need to measure it. If I don't have that mark, if I don't know exactly where I'm going, I'm doing fine. So be clear with that objective, because then that will lead to a good process, because you can't get anywhere without that objective. Again, in the baseball world, guys would be like, hey, how do you want to do? Oh, I want to hit better. Okay, well, what's hitting better? What are the statistics? What are my metrics that I'm measuring that, right? Have 20 doubles, have a 300 batting average, whatever it might be. But I needed that. I needed those things. Extra velocity on my fastball. I needed that objective in order to be clear about what my process steps are going to be. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, as a leader. So number one, clear objective. Number two is why, right? Being clear with why you are why. So wait, why? Oh, Jake's singing. I didn't get what you were talking about there, Jake. So now I get it. Now I'm clear about what you're getting. Number two is the why. The why of the objective. Why is this objective important? Why is it important to you as an individual? Why is it important to the team? Again, going back, we've mentioned this before, the self-determination theory out of the University of Rochester. Self-determination theory, one of the best theories on motivation that I've ever heard. It kind of like every time we apply it, we find the results that it works. Okay. And so what is it? Self-determination theory says that people are most motivated by three factors. Number one, competency. Number two, autonomy. And number three, relatedness, right? Those are just the numbers. They're not in order. They could be in any order. Sometimes relatedness is more important. Sometimes competency is more important. It doesn't matter. But if you think about that, there's the why in all of that. The autonomy and the relatedness. The relatedness is so huge. Rochester, look at that's where Ira Zimmerman's up in Rochester. She's one of our great Limitless Minds ambassadors, one of our great Limitless Minds coaches. I had the opportunity to be with her this week in Kansas City and just watch her absolutely shine. It was awesome. But going back to it, competency, autonomy, relatedness, right? And so think about that for a second. If I know that what I'm doing is going to have an impact to others around me, and I know why it's going to have that impact, I'm going to be a little bit more motivated to do it. If I know that, I'm really good at what I do, right? And why I'm really good at what I do, I'm probably going to do those behaviors and habits again. Conscious competency, level 4, conscious competency. Then there's the other part about it, the autonomy. I have a say. I have control over my own life. My research in grad school was on extreme athletes at the professional level and the motivation that these guys had. And it fell into all three of those categories. But one of the biggest things was they had control. So think about a rock climber and a guy who's, 175 feet in the air, dangling by a thin rope. And this is what he does for his profession, or she does for her profession. And you ask, why do you do that? And a lot of times it comes down to, I am in complete control of my own fate. The decisions I make, the moves I make, the strength I had, the training I did in order to get to this point, that is all on me. So that autonomy piece was huge as well. So again, how to get clear, especially with people in your organization, is tell them the why. And tell them the why as it relates to that self-determination theory. How is this going to affect others? How is this going to make you more competent? How is this going to help you be more in control of your own life? The why, the why, the why, right? So that's number two. So number one, clear objective. Number two, communicate the why of the objective over and over again and how it really relates to the individual. Hugely important. Number three factor, the where to where. And I say it that way, the where to where. Again, we use the analogy of ways going from one spot to the other spot. But if we started ways again and we didn't actually know where we were starting, then how the heck would we know how we're going to get to where we want to go? So if you think about it from this perspective, Think about it. I always think about leaders, and I like that. I like the analogy of a leader standing on the edge of a bridge, and on the other side is the objective. But letting everybody know, hey, this is where we are right now. This is where we are. This is what we've accomplished. These are the things we've done, and you see it all the times in those like the national sales meetings and things like that. This is where we're at. Okay, and this is where we want to go. But that really clear understanding of where we are right now is so important, because so often we don't have a scoreboard. Some organizations do, and oftentimes those organizations with a clear scoreboard, they have a higher accountability to their people. Some people don't love that, but the reality is if we don't have that scoreboard, if we don't know where we are, then how the heck can we know where we are in relation to where we're going? And then how can we adjust fire? How can we figure out what to do in that situation? How can we even be coming close to being clear? Right? Here's my bank account, right? I don't know about you all, but like there are things that come out, like unless you do an audit of all the you see these ads all the time on Instagram about figuring out exactly what you're spending money on. This is the day and age these days, right? I don't know. I'm signed up for Netflix. I'm signed up for this. I'm signed up for that. How much stuff did one time I was like, I was getting this magazine in the mail. I had no clue why I was getting the magazine in the mail. And then I realized I had signed up for it by accident. And then I was like getting charged $9 a month for it. And I was like, I don't even like the magazine. It's not even good. Right. So it's like getting clear on, okay, if I do an audit of my finances and I look at every month where the money's going, then I'm clear about what I'm spending my money on. I know where I'm at. Same kind of thing with sales, same kind of thing with different leadership perspective. Here's where we're going. This is where we are. And we got to keep, okay, now this is where we are. Then this is where we are. And people want to know that. They want to understand how close they are to the end zone, how close they are to the finish line, how close they are to meeting the goals that we've set very clearly at the beginning. That's huge. It's huge. It inspires motivation. It helps us. Clarity creates velocity, right? Well, I can't go fast if I don't know where I am. I'm just going to spin around in a circle. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, celebrate the wins of the process. All right, let me say that again. Celebrate the wins of the process. Once we've set our objective over here, we're really clear about where we want to go, right? I want to get $10 million in sales this year. We want 30 new clients, right? That's where we want to go. Well, how do I get there? That's the process. And then you have to celebrate people doing the process correctly, regardless if they're actually closing or not. More often than not, if the process is really good, the closing is going to happen and the sales are going to happen and the objectives are going to get closer and closer to meeting that. But as a leader, you have to celebrate the process and the way to go about things, because when you celebrate that, people become clear about what you're celebrating and you do it loudly. Hey, this is what we want you all to do. This is what we do as an organization. This is how we show up. This is who we are. And you get clear on that and you celebrate those wins. Hey, that was unbelievable. You know, you made 50 calls that day. Out of the 50 calls, you were able to close 40 of them, whatever. But out of those 50 calls, you were really open. You were authentic. You were clear. You were listening. You had a great process there. And we celebrate that. Awesome job. You went above and beyond in these areas. Great job. Calling it out. Celebrate the wins, because when you celebrate the wins, people know in the organization what you truly value. Right? That's huge. Celebrate the wins of the process. Okay. We are up to number 5. Number 5. The 5th way to get really clear is to monitor and adjust. Monitor and adjust. We just talked about having a scoreboard. We just talked about celebrating wins. We talked about, hey, knowing where you are to get to where you want to go. We talked about understanding the why, and we talked about having an objective goal. Well, guess what? If I'm on, I love this analogy. Travis Thomas uses this analogy all the time. He talks about getting on an ocean liner, and you get on the ocean liner and you're in, I don't know, New York, and we're going to go to London. We'll take the QE2. We'll take the big red smokestack QE2. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the QE2 in New York. Every year it comes in. I don't even know why. I'm so confused by it. It just shows up on the upper, or actually in the Midtown West Side, like over by the Javits Center in the 50s, 40s. It's just there. It's just like, and then everybody makes a big deal out of it. It's QE2, and then it goes off, it does the big horn, and it's off into C. Well, it's interesting though, because the QE2 doesn't take like that. It doesn't go whoop, straight over to London, right? It doesn't go straight. What happens is it starts going, and then the tides will take it and it'll start drifting a little bit, and then it's got to kind of steer back over here, and then the tide's going to take it over here, and it's going to slide left a little bit, and then tilt it back over this way, right? And so the whole whole key isn't that it goes a straight line. It goes straightish, right? If you took a cumulative look at the line, it'd be sort of straight, but the boat's constantly tacking back and forth because there's this thing called current and tides in the ocean and this living being called the planet that moves the ship around. So the whole thing is about constantly recognizing, okay, I'm getting a little off track. Let me move back in. Oh, I'm getting a little off track. But we have to be clear about that. If we don't know that we're offline, then we can't tack back, right? So a leader's job a lot of times is to just kind of move the rudder a little bit to keep us moving straight. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. So, and again, that comes with the scoreboard. It comes with monitoring the process. It comes with a measurable process. Sometimes processes, we go, hey, I just want to be present. Okay, well, how do I measure that? How do I measure being present? Did I ask 15 questions? Is there a number, a black and white number that I can put on that? Is there some way to show that I was present? I shut my phone off. That's certainly one way to make sure you're doing it. Flipped it over. I made great eye contact. I repeated back 3 times what they said to me. And you can give numbers to this stuff. Talk about technical, and sales, right? You can give numbers to this stuff. But, like, how do you measure being present? It's a great question. I'd love to have a thought process. Jake, you got anything? How do you measure being present? You crush it in sales. I want to know. All right, Rebecca, any thoughts on that? So that's the thing is like, hey, we have this, and let's just make sure that we're and here's the thing. I think we talked about it the last time. Novak Djokovic, again, one of the greatest of all time. Think Serena Martina. Think Nadal. Think Federer. Right, one of the greatest of all time. But he talked about being the greatest, right? Being those elite. Is you go, hey, listen, I got a little bit off. I was aware of it. I was aware that I got off, and I dropped my focus back in really, 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 really quickly. Yeah, I think that's a great way. That's a good point too, Julia, is understand Dr. West chiming in on the backside. Whether or not you know you're present is maybe people's responses to you. Guess what? If you're not present, you're probably not going to notice the other people's responses to you. But that's a good way to do it, right? It's just to kind of take a look at it, right? One of the best ways to ask open versus closed-ended questions. Love it, Jake. Love it, Jake. That's, yeah. Asking those open-ended questions. So there is a larger response, right? And then understanding that, like, that's a great way. How many yes/no questions did I answer? It's funny. I was talking to a coach, a client that I coach, and they were having an issue with one of their employees. And I asked them, how often is this employee saying yes to you and not getting stuff done? And the guy was like, he's a pleaser. All he says is, yes, I'll get it done. Yes, I'll get it done. Yes, I'll get it done. But then never gets it done. And I said, how often do you have him repeat back exactly what you asked him? In other words, how often do you ask him, when you ask him a question, hey, I need you to do A, B, and C. Okay, what did you hear me say? Right? How often do you do that to get that clarity between parties, to get that clarity of understanding? And then, okay, he doesn't do them. Then there's just excuses, right? Or she doesn't do them. Then it's just excuses. So understanding, getting that clarity up front and getting that agreement. Rebecca chimes in, I know I am present when I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say next. When I'm truly listening, I'm more slowly and thoughtfully when I'm really present and listening. Yeah. Beautiful. Love it. You're locked in, right? It takes a little bit more time. Maybe there's a stopwatch. We can time how long you spend with a person, right? Maybe that will show presence. The last piece, number, I don't even know where we're at. We're number 6. We're at 6. Number 6. I wrote it down so I would be clear about what to talk about. Number 6 is lead by example. Lead by example, right? Clarity, right? Most people in an organization will look to the leader to get clear on what's acceptable and what's not. Well, this leader, he doesn't really care about the fact that we're only supposed to spend, $500 on our plane flights. He always does this and that or the other thing, right? Like his rules don't apply to there, right? He doesn't turn his respect reports on time. Isn't on time for meetings. Is always looking at his phone during meetings, or she's always looking at her phone during meetings, right? Like, right? Lead by example. How do you want people to be? Be that way yourself. Julia says, Simon Sinek says, learning to be present is as much as something we think you can do for others as you do for yourself. We think about meditating, training, but it is tremendous relationship benefits. You do it so you can get to the end of the conversation with a friend, and the friend asks, "Thank you so much." Me seen and heard. As someone who is more motivated by doing something for others than do what's good for me, this is a compelling argument. Love that. Love that. Right? The biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand. We listen to apply. Without a doubt, Jake, without a doubt. As a matter of fact, in a lot of our live trainings, we'll get out and we'll work with companies on how to listen better and how to be more present within listening. Because I think it's such a huge, huge factor of being clear. And a lot of it is the questions you ask and what you're actually listening for. You're listening to understand. You're listening from a place of curiosity rather than judgment. This is one of those big elements, judgment. We talk about it all the time. What is that neutral mindset? The neutral mindset is dealing with objective and concrete facts without judging or grading. How often do we judge? We are judging all the time. It just happens. It just comes out of our mouth. It comes with gossip. We do this, we do that, and bang, that listening is so huge, and that curiosity is so huge that the judgment will fade away, right? And so that's another piece of really getting clear, is being curious as a leader. Being curious about what's going on with everybody in the organization. Being curious about, hey, if we aren't meeting these goals, why not? Versus blame, pointing fingers, etc. Like diving into it and getting clarity of the behaviors and habits that aren't leading to what we want, and then adjusting those again. Just using the little think about the ping pong paddles, right? Just back and forth. Pickleball, huge down here in Florida. Right? Just bat it back, get it back over the net. Come on, let's go straight. Right? That's the whole key. So again, kind of wrapping all this stuff up and putting a bow on it. How to get clear. Clarity is one of those things that we know has so much more power than certainty. If we're looking to be certain, right, it's probably not going to happen. This game is a lottery, right? Our lives are lotteries. We could do all the behaviors, we could do all the habits, and bam, we get hit with COVID and everything shuts down, right? And then it's just about being agile and adjusting on pivot. So, but being clear about what I'm doing and how to go about it, and the direction that I want to go, and the direction we're going as an organization, that's huge. So how do we get clear? Let's go through all 6 again. Number 1, have that clear outcome, have that clear objective. Make sure everybody knows what it is. Be clear with that vision. Number 2, communicate the why. Why? Tell them why it's important. Tell them why it's important to be in, in the organization, what it's going to do for them individually, et cetera. The why is huge. Number 3, where to where. Understand where you are and where we're going. Where am I right now? Where am I going? That's the scoreboard. Number 4, celebrate the wins of the process. Celebrate the wins of the process. Number 5, monitor and adjust. Again, little paddles. Think about the boat going across the Atlantic. And then number 6, ultimately, lead by example. You do all 6 of those, you're going to get a pretty clear organization. You're going to be pretty clear as a leader, and you're going to be effective as a leader as well. I want to read what Jay kind of had to say here. He popped it in there. I think Joshua Lifrak would have fun reading some of the best books of the era. Polar Exploration, Into the Kingdom of Ice, and The Man Who Ate His Boots. Yeah, maybe. I'm actually reading, you know what I'm reading right now, Jake? Is I don't know why, but I didn't know anything about the North African campaign of World War II. Like, I just didn't know anything about it. Did you know that we fought the French? Did you know the Americans actually fought the French in Northern Africa? Did not know that. Things you didn't know. So I'm reading a book on that. But I think, yes, ice exploration and Arctic art. I don't know, though. I live in Florida. I might feel cold reading it. You want to talk about consequences of losing track of your course? Those stories will crystallize the dire consequence of losing course. Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Yeah, you think about Shackleton and all those guys and all that stuff. The other piece, so Rebecca just chimes in, all these points also show that the team of employees are valued, and that it's going to make them want to fully commit and bring their all to work. I totally agree. And I think, Rebecca, you kind of bring up an interesting point too, because there's a flip side to all this. You can be a great leader. You can be clear, have all these things done. But as somebody who's a direct report or an employee, you can be clear too. You can be clear the other way as well, right? And that's in this day and age, if there's good, clear communication both ways, that makes it a really strong, passionate, psychologically safe, accountable environment. And those are the best ones to have. So, all right, cool, Modi. We're back next Tuesday. Again. We are only going once a week, but I really appreciate Jake and Rebecca and Dr. West and Mari for chiming in today. Really, really appreciate that. And this will be up. We'll have it on LinkedIn. We'll have it on Facebook. It's up there. It's out there. Share it with your friends if you want. But again, great stuff. Oh, Martin was there. Martin was hanging out. We didn't even know. Martin, got to chime in earlier, man. But awesome. Great job today, everybody. Thanks so much. Remember, body has limits. Mind limitless.